Hey, welcome to Hammer Time. We have a great show for you today. We are going to be talking about insurance claims. And I'm sure if you're tuning in, you are very excited for this one. Hey, who's snoring? Come on. We have the amazing Amy Matthews with us today, folks from HGTV and a number of other things that we've covered. She just got back from Thailand, so that's how dedicated she is.
Thailand?
Thailand. No, Thailand.
There.
Thailand.
Right there.
Proof. This is proof. She's legit. And of course, Lon Anderson is here.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. And again, we're doing insurance claims. So like if you're tuning in, you probably have a lot of questions. And we do, as a contractor, we deal with insurance claims quite a bit. A lot more than we used to, I'd say. Like when I started in the industry and I'm 15, that's when I started, because I did, but when I started, it was sort of a rare thing to have an insurance claim. It was unusual. It was one out of every 20 or 30 jobs, and now I would say it's 50-50 for our company, right? And in the industry as a whole, it might be closer to 75%, at least for, exterior remodeling, right?
And when I started in 2014, on this side of it, I was a sub when I was much younger, but in 2014, that's all I sold was insurance work.
Really?
Yep. That first year, that's all I did.
Right.
Wow.
And that's probably around when it really started ramping up, or, maybe the early 2000s, it became like, this is how people are getting the roofs done. And it may have just been because they're getting damaged more.
Mm-hmm.
But, we deal with it a lot. So, many of the reasons that homeowners start thinking about a claim in the first place, there's the obvious damage. That's one of them. They had an event come by. They see holes. They see dents, right? That's one of the reasons that a homeowner is going to file a claim, or at least start thinking about it. The one other way would be that they had an event, they're aware of it, they had a hailstorm, but they don't see any obvious damage, and they want to call a professional to assess the situation. And the third way I'd say is that they had a solicitor, they had a contractor reach out to them and explain that there was an event and that they might have damage. So those are the main three ways that I see a homeowner start to think about the claim process. Would you agree with that, Lon? I mean, it's...
Yeah, definitely seeing the damage firsthand, and also seeing things like holes in their hostas, like damage to the vegetation.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a hailstorm come through and you don't really have leaves on the ground or damaged vegetation, it's a likely situation where the hail wasn't big enough to damage your roof. Like it's going to damage your hostas before it's going to damage your roof.
Right.
So that's some of the damage that they can see, besides just dents in the metals or missing shingles or things like that.
Right.
And when they have had an event and they don't see the damage, a lot of times, right, it's in areas where the homeowner's never going to get to, and I wouldn't recommend them even going to look at it. You got areas of your roof and you've got, valleys where you don't want somebody up on a ladder checking their own,
Right. Right. I mean, that's a
dangerous.
great point. I mean, you absolutely want to have a professional get on your roof to inspect it. And we have a lot of, photos of damage. If you don't mind pulling that up, Gabe, just so, the homeowner can kind of see, like, that is a hail hit. That is one example of a hail hit. Those are the granules, obviously there's missing granules.
And the problem with that, some people might look at that and say, well, that's not really that much damage. Well, the issue that happens is, over time, the granules have been knocked off the shingle, and now the asphalt is exposed underneath. And it's kind of like a driveway that you when you put in a new driveway, it's nice and black. Well, if you don't seal coat that driveway, over time it turns light gray, and then it'll essentially crack and break.
Mm-hmm.
So the granules act like a seal coating on top of the shingle, and when they're knocked off that spot, the asphalt is going to wear away a lot faster in that specific area. So that's one of the reasons that the insurance companies pay for a new roof, is because the life of that roof is now going to be a lot less as a result of that.
Totally. And to your point, can we look at like the layers of the roof? Because a lot of people will look at this and like you said, they won't really know if it looks like damage or not. But they also don't know how the roof is comprised of
Right.
what. So you
Right.
you know you look up in your attic, you've got your rafters, then you got a layer of OSB normally, some kind of
Right.
roof deck
Plywood,
sheathing, plywood, and then you've got some sort of deck armor, GAF, timberline, something
Right.
like that, where
Right.
it's like a waterproofing, right?
Right.
Nothing is totally waterproof, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
And then you've got your layer of roofing material. So there's
Right.
generally 3 layers right there. And one penetration, one break in one of those layers can create tens of thousands of dollars of damage.
Right. Right. And that's exactly why the insurance company will pay to redo your shingles.
Yep.
Because that problem's way worse than paying for new shingles.
Exactly.
There is one other issue too. The adjusters will say that besides granules being knocked off the shingle, the matting, there's a fiberglass mat that's inside the shingle that it's almost like rebar and concrete. So that mat acts like reinforcement for the shingle. That mat is supposed to be broken. So the adjuster, insurance adjuster, and us as contractors, when we're checking a roof, we'll get up there and be able to push on that and feel if the matting is broken. It'll be like a soft spot where that hail hit. So you're going to look for the granules that have been knocked off for that spot, and then also you want to feel it just to make sure that the matting is broken.
Right. Yeah, I've certainly been on top of roofs during inspections where you see a lot of what those photos we just saw where there's massive granule loss, there's clear hail hits, but they don't approve a new roof because they do that. They try and test it, they push down, and a lot of it just depends on what adjuster you get that day.
Right.
A lot of times it's just a random reason why they don't approve it.
It's
Right.
very subjective. So one person will say it is, and another person will say it's not.
Right.
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 And our houses get general wear and tear, right? I mean, our houses are not going to be perfect, especially when you look at older houses that have been standing for a while. Our houses take a lot, we
Right.
ask a lot of them, sun
Right.
and rain and hail and snow and all the things and wind but, nipping it in the bud as contractors yourselves who are going to look at that, you're really looking at trying to help someone solve the problem of major damage later on. The difference
Right.
between a cosmetic damage and something infiltrating the house.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's a very common, thing that we need to communicate with homeowners is that it's not always super obvious. Right. And so like if I'm a homeowner, Lon, you know a ton about, claims. You've been in it, a lot more than I have. Like I'm a homeowner. When should I file a claim and when should I not file a claim?
Well, again, if you've had an event, if you know that a hailstorm has come through, it doesn't hurt to file a claim. If it's an act of nature, your insurance company is not going to cancel you or raise your rates specifically for your property if there is a claim. So looking for damage on the ground, like we talked about, damage to the vegetation. If you're seeing a lot of activity in the neighborhood, if there's a lot of contractors that are replacing roofs, if there's a lot of trucks where they're doing inspections, if you're getting mailers on the door, if you're getting people knocking on the door, those are all signs that you probably have at least a reason to get the adjuster out, because the adjusters really are the experts. Us as contractors, we know about roofing and how to replace things, but as far as insurance work, the adjusters are the experts. So it doesn't hurt to get them out there so that you can get their opinion. And if they say no, it's not a problem. But there's no harm in at least filing the claim.
I have a question. As a homeowner, do I just want to get an adjuster to come out? Do I want to have a contractor there with them so that the contractor can be pointing out, like, here's what we see, and then have the adjuster be able to connect with the contractor?
That's a great question. And as far as the claim process, so if you do think that you've had a storm event, you want to call the 1-800 number. It takes about 5 minutes. It's just going to be a data entry person on the other side. They're going to make sure nobody got hurt. They're just going to ask a few questions. And then usually they'll tell you that an adjuster will contact you within 72 hours. So when that adjuster contacts you with the appointment, then you want to let your contractor know so that they can come out and help the adjuster. Because usually these adjusters, a lot of times, are from other areas of the country, and they're maybe doing 5 or 6 of these every single day.
Right.
So in order to show them all the damage, usually the contractor will come out ahead of time, do their own inspection, make notes about where they see damage. And then that way that when that adjuster gets there, they can show them all these things that they've already found. It helps the adjuster do their job. They can move on to the next claim. So yeah, it's really a good idea to always have a contractor there when the adjuster comes.
Okay, then one more quick question.
Yeah.
I always recommend homeowners get at least 3 bids if they're going to do a project. The insurance seems like it's moving at a different speed because you're needing to get someone out there. You might have some damage that needs to be addressed quickly. So how do I, as a homeowner, figure out what contractor I'm going to use than to have that contractor meet the adjuster? Does it matter, or the person that meets the adjuster doesn't necessarily have to be the person that I choose?
So that's a fantastic question, because insurance claims work a lot different than a regular retail job, if you will.
Right.
In the way I see it is that a homeowner should really kind of almost choose a contractor like pre-inspection. They don't have to, right? If they have a contractor out there who helps them through the claim process, they don't have to use that contractor. But I do think there's a level of involvement with the contractors right out of the gates where you're better off if you stick with them the entire time. And of course, they're putting in a lot of work too,
Right.
and that can be really confusing maybe for a homeowner, because they don't know that company that well. And that's why I say, like, before you set up an appointment and have that contractor with the adjuster, do your homework on that contractor. And again, you're not legally obligated to go with that contractor, but it's sort of like, it should be sort of a connection and a working relationship from the beginning, because the contractor is going to be bouncing back and forth with these claims and saying, hey, they missed this, they did that, and you want to have that good relationship from the get-go, in my opinion.
Well, and one thing also, Amy, that I forgot to mention is that really the contractor should come out ahead of time and do their own inspection. They don't want to wait for the adjuster to come out.
Right.
Contractor should go out ahead of time, find out what damage, see if there's any damage. Now, when I get up on a roof, I always take photos of any damage that I see.
Yeah.
And then I come down on the ground and I show those to the customer, explain the claim process, let them know what to expect. And yeah, there's some contractors who will get the customer to sign a document that looks like a contract, but it's not. You're not exchanging any money. State of Minnesota, you've got to exchange money for a contract to be valid.
Right.
So if they're getting you to sign this and trying to fool you into thinking that you're now obligated to use them, don't fall for it.
That's a really good point. I've actually had a client that dealt with that as well. Brought someone in, and then they felt so obligated and were really concerned that they had to go with this person, and eventually they didn't actually want to use this person after they met a few other contractors. So unless in Minnesota, unless money is exchanged, it's not a binding contract.
Correct.
Is that right? Okay.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, you can always, any of those preliminary contracts just immediately break those if you want. And my advice to a homeowner would be just do it tactfully, I guess. You know what I mean? Because even if you don't trust that company or whatever, it might be like a new salesperson who's learning the ropes. You know what I mean? Like, just do it tactfully, thank them, whatever it is, because they probably did put time into it.
Yes.
But pick the contractor you want at the end of the day.
Right.
You don't have to stick with that nice new kid who knocked on your door, if you don't want to.
Right.
So
well, and I think too, Gabe, if we could look at some of those other photos, like the vents, that's something that I always look at right away. If I don't see damage on the metals of the roof, like there, you can see you bring up some sidewalk chalk, and you chalk the vents, and if you don't see indents like that, again, the hail isn't going to be big enough to damage the shingles. So when I get up on, that's actually a picture that I took. So I'll get up on the roof, chalk the vents, look for spots on the shingles, and then I take photos of that and bring it down and show the customer so that I'm building credibility along the way so that they can trust me. Because anybody can get up there and say that there's damage, but if they're not showing you pictures, I'd be really suspicious.
Yeah. Because there are people that'll put a new roof on even when you don't need it because they want the
of course.
They want the business, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just
right.
It makes me so mad.
For sure. And I said before how I've been on really damaged roofs where they say, oh, no, we're not paying for this. I've also been on really pristine roofs where I'm like, this looks great. And the adjuster comes and says, wow, there's damage, and they pay for it. So at that point, they kind of have to do the roof at that point.
Right.
And that's rare, but it does happen. And again, it goes back to, it can be really subjective. who's the adjuster, who's the insurance company.
Right.
So there's a lot of different factors. Yes.
How long do people have after a storm event happens and they put a claim in and the insurance company says, yes, great, you're good to go, we'll get you a new roof. How long does a homeowner have to do that before it's...
Well, there's two time frames that you're working with an insurance claim. One is how long do you have to file a claim, which most insurance companies, it's 2 years from the date of loss. American Family, I believe, is only 1 year. So, for instance, last year we had a big storm on May 19th. It was May 19th, 2022. Know that date very well because there was quite a bit of damage. So most customers...
It's my birthday.
Is it
What?
really?
Oh my
May
gosh.
19th?
I know it's a day that will live in infamy for hail damage in Minnesota.
You're a storm baby.
I love it.
I am a storm baby, and I had hail that was literally the size of a tennis ball.
So what happened to your property?
Well, I put that hail in the freezer, and we used it in an old fashioned.
Oh, I love it.
That's
a
what we
birthday
did.
party.
Good old
That's
toxic
a birthday
rain.
party.
You know, I've actually had people who have taken the hail and put it in their freezer so that they can show their insurance company.
Yes, that
Yeah.
was one of the reasons, but that we ended
But
up
old
drinking
fashioned,
it.
also a great reason.
Yeah. Oops. The evidence just went.
Yeah, I love it.
So there's there's the date of loss, and you usually have 2 years to file the claim. So, for instance, on that storm, there's a lot of damage that's still out there. People will have, depending on the insurance company, up until May 19th of 2024 to file a claim. And then most companies, it's a year from the date of approval. Right, Chris?
Yeah.
A year from the date of approval to get the work done.
Okay,
Right.
so you have a year.
And
okay.
you can get an extension. So if you're in the claim process right now and for some reason, let's say you bought material that is delayed,
Mhm.
weather, if there's a number of factors where you can get an extension. You can ask for an extension, I should say.
Okay.
And they've always granted them in my experience.
Okay. And so the work would have to be started by May 19th, 2024. No, 2020.
Well, if they, let's say that,
A year from when they claimed. Right.
Right.
yep, from when the claim was approved.
Okay. The work has to be finished or the work has to be started?
Finished.
Finished.
Right. Unless you ask for an extension.
Okay.
And that, and that could be, you may not even started the job and you can ask for an extension.
Okay.
So, and like I said, yeah, I've never seen it where they don't approve it because things happen, as you know.
As long as you're proactive in communicating with them, yeah,
Right.
they will. I mean, sometimes they might ask for a signed contract, with the customer just to verify that you're going to do the work. And I mean, there's different things, but usually they're pretty good about it if you're communicating with them.
Okay. That's good to know.
So if I'm the homeowner, I filed a claim, I picked a contractor or not, but I have an adjuster come out and they approve the claim. What happens after that?
They're going to get a set of paperwork and a first check. The first check is called the ACV check. And I believe we have a hypothetical example of the three main terms that are used with insurance claims: ACV, depreciation, and RCV.
Is this the one here, Lon? You just coach me through it if I'm wrong.
That is correct.
Okay.
So
This, just to be clear, this is a check that the homeowner gets from their insurance company. It's not made out to the contractor. It's made out to the homeowner. Is that right?
correct.
Okay. Or it should be made out to the homeowner?
They will always get the check themselves. Sometimes they'll have the mortgage lender attached to it,
Mm-hmm.
depending on, I think if the claim is more than $10,000, then
Okay.
the mortgage lender will have to also sign off on the check
Okay.
before it's released. So yeah, they'll get this first check, and ACV stands for actual cash value. The example is that if a certain sized roof was going to cost $20,000 to be replaced in today's dollars, and the useful life of that roof is 25 years, let's say they have a 25-year shingle up there, and the roof is 12 and a half years old, they are going to depreciate that in half. Now you might say, well, how come 20,000, half of 20,000 is 10,000? So why does it say ACV 9,000? Because they're always going to take the deductible out of that first check.
Hmm.
So they don't care what you do with this money. Honestly, you could take it, go to Vegas, you could, buy some new tile for your bathroom.
Right.
But if you don't replace the roof is no longer insurable. So another storm happens in 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
You can't
gonna
have
look-
another claim, right?
That's right. They're going to look back and see that you didn't replace the roof. So they're not going to approve it again.
Well, not only that, but if you go to sell the home and they look it up, they can see that you filed a claim but didn't replace it, and then that becomes a big issue with the buyer and the seller. I mean, that can basically you have
cost
to
you.
knock that off. It's really stupid to not do the work.
Right.
But you don't have to. Like, legally, you can just pocket the money.
Usually it's also stupid to go to Vegas for a lot of
Yeah.
people.
Well,
So,
hey, come on.
you might as well take your chances with the roof.
What if you always win, though?
Better return on investment with the roof, I'd say.
Well, and that's one of the reasons too that they'll attach the mortgage lender to it, because if there's a lien on the house, the
Right.
lender's going to want to make sure that property gets that the damage gets corrected because of exactly what Chris said. That otherwise they're not going to be able to sell it.
Right.
So then the next slide would be depreciation. Okay. So then once the work is complete and we send an invoice into the insurance company, they're going to send a second check, which is the depreciation value. So in this hypothetical example, you'll get $9,000 at first, which is $10,000 minus your deductible. So they're always going to take the deductible out of the ACV. Then when the work is complete, they're going to send a second check. And in this case, it would be $10,000. So going to the third slide. So ACV plus depreciation equals RCV, or replacement cost value. You will see that on every single insurance claim. And I know we've got an example of that that has those terms in it.
Can we pull that up, Gabe? That's it's an example. So this
Yeah.
is an example of what the homeowner will get. This is pretty much what it's going to look like. To be honest, I've been in the industry a long time, and it can still seem like a foreign language to me. It's like right. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to understand. So hopefully this helps somewhat. But this is what you will get. In this case, you see coverage A for the dwelling. That's the house. The other structures is coverage B, and then the personal property. So these are all of the things that were damaged that insurance is paying for, right, Lon?
Yep. So this is the first page of this example claim. And you can see even there, it has replacement cost value, less recoverable depreciation equals the actual cash value. And then you can see where they took the deductible out of the ACV. So you'll see this in multiple places on the claim. And I know if we advance to, I think it's the third page. Yeah. So now these are all the line items. And then this is where people really get confused, because you look at all these things and you wonder, well, what, if you're not into construction, you don't know what those terms are. And then you've got all these numbers attached to it also. But even on the line items, and this is the exact same claim. So this is another page from that hypothetical claim. You can see you've got RCV, you've got depreciation, and then you've got ACV.
Okay, so what if the insurance company is doing this valuation, right? They're doing this. What if a contractor comes in and says, "Oh, that 20,000 value that they're giving you, and you're going to get 19, 20 less your deductible." What if the contractor's like, "Yeah, it's going to cost you 35"?
That's a good question on two fronts, because one, the insurance companies and many contractors, us included, use software called Xactimate. It's a national company. They basically do surveys all over the country. They do like 20,000 surveys every month where they are sampling product prices, and also contractors, getting surveys from them as to what costs are at that specific time. And they upgrade the price list or update the price list once every month. So a couple things. If you let's go back to the $20,000 roof example. If insurance pays you $20,000 to replace your roof, but you only pay $15,000 of that, legally you are not entitled to keep that extra money. Or what I should say is, a contractor can't submit a fake invoice for $20,000, which they would release that depreciation,
Right.
and that can't go in your pocket. That's essentially fraud.
Right.
So you are responsible for your deductible, but nothing more should be included beyond that unless it's agreed to with the customer. So if it were to cost $35,000, the contractor has an obligation to discuss that with you ahead of time, but really to go back to the insurance company and say, "Hey, I think your estimate is wrong," because the adjusters aren't construction professionals most of the time. So there might be line items that they forget in the individual claim
Mhm.
that we can show them, okay, you guys forgot this, and the amount needs to be a little bit higher. But in no way do we ever complete work for a customer where that price has not been discussed ahead of time, or it's not in written form. Usually when we write our contracts, it says, if the deductible is $1,000, it'll say when it comes to the price, it'll say 1,000 plus insurance proceeds.
Okay.
That way they know they're only responsible for the deductible.
Okay.
And if something comes up during the project, they call that a supplement, right? So we say like, oh, this roof needs an overlay of roof decking,
Plywood
right?
is a common one.
Plywood, right? And you can prove why, because it needs to be up to code.
Right.
Usually you would contact the insurance right then and there
Right.
and show them proof, and they approve it, and you proceed to do that work.
Right.
So again, that's a situation where the homeowner is not out of pocket on that at all, and it's getting built to code.
Okay.
Now, most companies like us will try to find that stuff beforehand.
Right.
Like, so we'll go in an attic and see if we can see the spacing in the deck boards or whatever it is. Try and get that out of the way before, so we're not, 10 guys on a roof and suddenly, okay, we have to stop and take pictures and call the insurance company.
Right.
So the good companies will do that. They'll try to cross all those things off the list before.
Right.
Of course, it's impossible to get it all every time. But,
Right. Because you're estimating the insurance company is estimating that 20 on just a replacement. Here's an asphalt roof for this size
Right.
square footage, this many
Exactly.
square for the house. If you get up there and you have to replace all the deck boards or the underlayment, it has to happen because it has to be done to code.
Right.
But
Or if it needs more ice and water shield.
Right.
That's a very common thing. Like obviously you want to have the correct amount of ice and water shield where it needs to be, but you can't always determine that by just doing your measurements on the top.
Right.
Sometimes you have to open it up and really look, or measure the eaves, right, Lon?
Well, and then a lot of times these adjusters are coming up from, again, they come from all over the country. So if they're coming from Texas where they don't use ice and water shield, they may have no idea that they need to include extra amounts of that because we live in Minnesota
Right.
and entryways need more ice and water shield. Next to the walls needs more ice and water shield. It's all in the building code, but they're not necessarily experts on that building code.
So, Lon, if you guys don't mind me cutting in, I was going to ask, hey, those storm chaser guys, are those all scams? Because they feel exactly like a scam. Like it just seems like this is going to hurt me in some way. This is a pain in the ass. And I had never thought they're not from here, so they don't know whatever, how to put on ice shield, for instance, but how do you know who to look for if they don't come knock on your door?
If you don't want to use the ambulance chasers, you mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Google, you can do your own research, or I tell people, if you know a contractor that you already trust, reach out to them first. If they do that type of work, and if you think they can deal with the insurance properly, then hire them.
Do you guys do it? I mean, that's
Oh,
what I'm getting at.
yeah, of course, yes.
Right, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, we have become, specialists in insurance claims and doing that work, mainly lawn. I shouldn't say we. Lawn is a specialist. But we do a lot of it, and it's it seems scammy. That was my first impression of the whole like storm realm, right? It's like it seems scammy. However, when I have a customer call me and say, hey, we've had a bunch of door knockers, what should I do? I tell them they probably do have damage.
Mhm.
If you have door knockers, and you said this earlier, that's probably a sign that hail hit that area, because these door knockers have access to maps and
Right.
all this technology that tells them where large hail hit.
Right.
So you probably do have damage, and then your next step is to find someone you trust. And it might be that door knocker. It really might be.
Yeah.
Some of those companies are really great, and some of them are really, really bad. So it really comes down to do your research, and find someone that you truly trust, and not just a salesperson, because some of those guys are new, right? Guys or
Mhm.
girls, they might be new, and they're getting kind of fooled too into thinking they work for this great company. So do your research on the actual company itself. Do they do good installs? Do they have good installers? Do they follow up?
Mhm.
That's the best route to take. And if you do, just hire the guy who knocked on your door, you might be in great hands, but you really don't know until you're done.
Well, and you want to have them do that inspection too, and make them show you the proof that they found. And I've got sort of a love-hate relationship with this whole insurance restoration business because one, I mean, it's business, and when a storm comes through like it did last year, it means a busy year for us. But the problem that I have with it is that you almost have to have insurance. I mean, if you own your house free and clear, you don't necessarily need to have property insurance. But if you have a mortgage on it, you've got to have property insurance. And even if you don't have a mortgage on it, probably means you got a pretty nice house and you're still going to want to have insurance on it. So in a way, it acts like a tax. It's like everybody has to pay it. Well, if there's this if there's a bunch of work that gets approved that shouldn't be, that basically raises everybody's rates. The insurance companies can't or don't raise your rates for acts of nature on an individual basis. They're going to do it by, usually it's zip code. So if you have a storm that came through your area and you don't file a claim, your rates are probably still going to go up. And if everybody else's rates go up, then so are yours.
Right.
So, in that way, it's like, you want to make sure that you trust the person that's getting up there. And when I go up, I mean, if they don't have damage, I'll be happy to tell them that.
Right. I was going to ask you, how many times have you done an inspection where you just say, you don't need to file a claim. There isn't enough damage, right? I mean, I know I've done that a handful of times. I know you've probably done it more. And that sometimes feels really good. Like for one, you build trust with them. And hey, if the next time there's a storm, or if you really want, to get your siding or roofing done in the future, call us. But at least they trust you that you're not full of it.
Yeah.
If I can't show them pictures of damage, then I'm not going to tell them that they should file a claim. It's still up to them if they want to, and I'll still show up for that adjustment appointment. But, I'll give them my opinion as to whether I think it's a roof that's damaged to the point that it needs to be repaired.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
There should be more contractors like you, because look at, by nature, you've got homeowners who the biggest investment most people will ever make in our lives is our homes, right? And then most homeowners are also not experts in those things that they're purchasing and spending all the money on. And then you've got someone who either wants to help them or just make money off of them, and deciding, figuring that out for a homeowner while they're dealing with damage and issue. It's
right. And if you're a contractor out there, actually there is a lot of money in just helping people.
Yeah.
I mean, really, when you have that mentality of you're just trying to help them, sort of save money and do the right thing, you will find that you probably make more money than just focusing on money, right?
Because you're respected, and nowadays with reviews online
Right.
and all of the things, everybody can kind of figure out who's good and who's not.
Right. And you can sleep at night too.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Speak for yourself. I've been just robbing people forever here, so it's tough. No, I was going to ask just to kind of restate this stuff, because just when I went through this, it truly was an overwhelmed situation, and I'm just like, I don't want to do. So if someone comes to your door, first of all, pitfalls to look for, like what you guys have shown me, is that the out-of-state guys are not necessarily a great option. I'd never thought of the ice shield type things like that.
Oh, sure.
How about service? I guess, what are the pitfalls of dealing with the fly-by-night guys?
I mean, they should know local codes. They're going by local codes, but they might not know what.
Right.
What don't they know?
Warranty work, right? Sorry to cut you off, but to me, that's the biggest thing is warranty work. They could be from out of town and be fantastic. They could be great installers, but if they live in Texas
and they leave
and you have and something leaks, they're not coming back. So, that's one reason to hire local.
Yeah.
And I mean, just, the nature of it. I mean, usually they don't have the same investment into the community, right? They don't really care that much. They're here to just kind of get it done, get paid, and go back.
Right.
But that said, again, you can probably find some diamonds in the rough. I'm sure there's some good companies, and I've seen a couple where I'm like, these guys are great, and they came from Seattle, whatever it is. But I think it's rare. And again, it comes back to just do your research, and you'll find out, you do enough research, you will find out who's a good contractor and who isn't.
But warranty, that's a really good point, because every single home construction project has to have some sort of warranty on it.
Right.
And if someone's coming in and putting on a new roof to prevent you from having damage, what if there's something wrong with it?
Right.
Who follows up?
That's exactly right.
I think that ice shield thing too is huge to me, because if you don't know this type of construction, that I can see that you could hit code but still do the wrong thing.
Right.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. That's the warranty work is the biggest thing, and we've got a limited lifetime warranty on our workmanship. And Chris's dad has been around since 1974, and there was a job where he replaced siding in 1989 or something like that. And the guy called him last year, and Dave Knutson went out there and put a piece of siding on that had blown off, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
So he went out there and did it for you.
Well, my dad's a different breed of
Come on.
human.
That's pretty amazing.
It was like booking a conversation for him.
I'll be honest, that used to annoy me, because when I was, pounding nails with him and he'd go and do something for free, I'd be doing it for free too. So I'm like, why are we doing this? But now I see the value in it, and it's just about, providing a service, because that's important too. So
We got to get him on here sometime.
yeah, we do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
We'll all be drinking.
Yeah. I've noted that's not a problem.
You're in a good industry.
That's good.
Cool. Well, yeah, I think we really covered a lot here, covered a lot of ground.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
If a homeowner has the opportunity to fix something that they were maybe hoping to change about their house because there's an insurance claim and they have to do it anyway as far as repairs. Let's say they have an asphalt roof, but they're like, I don't really want another asphalt roof. I was going to do some sort of remodel, and you know what? I should really get my stuff together and look at like the big picture of the house. How did they deal with that?
That's another great question. So let's say insurance is paying for an asphalt roof.
Mm-hmm.
We would recommend that they still try to maximize how much they're getting for that asphalt roof, because there could still be things that are missed, right? Like drip edge or something. So still try to maximize that amount, but then ask that contractor for a bid for, let's say, an upgrade to metal, or a higher grade asphalt, cedar, whatever it is.
Right.
And you can use that money towards that upgrade.
Right.
That's perfectly legal and acceptable. But you just want to make sure that you maximize what they should be paying for the existing roof.
That makes sense. But it is a good opportunity to upgrade something if they were thinking about doing that
Absolutely.
anyway.
Yeah.
Also, as a person with a metal roof, I'm telling you, every time it hails, I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
I had
lucky.
calls and calls and calls from people after that May 19th. They're still calling. There's some
Really?
hail dam, and I mean, there's been other storms since then, but nothing quite as bad. And they'll call, and my first thing will be like, no, I just put a new roof on. Oh, but have you had anyone look? I'm like, well, it's a metal roof. Click.
Oh no.
Ding. And then I'm like,
Well, and also, so there's new shingles that are called class 4 shingles, which are more hail resistant. And the same thing applies. They might only pay for an old 3-tab roof, but if you decide to put a class 4 shingle on there, which is more hail resistant, you can still collect that full amount of the insurance claim. Plus, a lot of times they're going to give you a discount on your premium because you now have a product that is more storm resistant.
Right.
that's a good point.
And don't forget style, right? Like aesthetics, like that. That's how you and I met. You
Yeah.
had a client who had a claim and she wanted to upgrade. I think it was like vinyl or steel or something, but hey, let's change it to James Hardy siding or LP. So it is a good opportunity to do it.
Right.
If you're already thinking about it, you're going to pay half of what you did.
Right.
So it's a no-brainer.
Exactly. And I am an advocate for those kind of upgraded changes, especially when it affects the aesthetic of the house, which is going to be a return on investment for the homeowners to pay that bit of an upgrade while doing this other process. And also, like you mentioned, for getting a better quality roof, you could actually lower your insurance premiums. So especially with all the crazy weather we have coming through now too, it's like it's not if, it's when.
Right.
So it's like just get the better product.
Right. Upgrade it now because you'll have to at some point.
Exactly.
The other last thing that I wanted to point out really quick, because I know Amy's got to go. Make sure you're reading your policies or that you're going over them extensively with your insurance agent, because it used to be where everybody paid $500 or $1,000 deductible because our storms weren't that frequent up here. And they were still getting, full roof replacement, even if the roof had been on there 20 years. Well, now, insurance companies don't lose money. So now what we're starting to see more and more is deductibles are going up. Sometimes they're even a percentage of the value. So if you have a $500,000 house, we've seen some deductibles that are $20,000. That's pretty common in other parts of the country where they have more storms. The other thing that we're seeing is ACV only policies. We talked about ACV earlier. And if a roof is more than 15 years old, sometimes are only paying ACV, which decreases every year as depreciation, continues to add up. Also coverage on outbuildings, detached garages, sheds. Make sure that you have enough coverage on that
Yeah.
as well.
Right.
We've
Limits.
ran into that
Yep.
too. Yep.
We've had bad experiences financially on certain jobs, or well, one in particular where they didn't have the right coverage on the garage, so we didn't get paid enough. And shame on us for not really reading it well enough at first too. But still, it's those you really want to get to the bottom of that policy. Make sure you're covered correctly, because otherwise, legally, this particular job, we could put a lien on their house, we could take their house, we never would, but legally that could happen. Another contractor may have done that to them.
Yeah.
Yep.
So make sure you're covered.
That makes sense.
Yep. We don't read policies, so talk to your insurance agent about that.
Yeah. Right.
And then how about if someone, if there's a hailstorm in the area, they want to get a hold of you guys or whatever?
Yeah, if there's a recent hailstorm, or if you had one in the past year or two and you just want a opinion, a first opinion, a second opinion, call us, email us, whatever it is, and we're happy to come out and look and give you an honest assessment. We really will. If we get up there and spend an hour looking at your roof and we don't think there's damage, we're going to tell you, because we don't want to waste our time either and try and fight for something that isn't there. So if you want an honest opinion, feel free to call us. We're happy to come out.
Was that free?
Free.
Oh yeah, that's free. That's a free service.
Can I tip for it? Yeah.
Sure.
What do you wear? No. Sounds good.
All right. Are we good?
Yeah, it was good for me. I just
was hammer
still
time.
picturing you in a G-string up on the roof.
That's a whole different kind of. Isn't that reserved
he's
for
good.
plumbers? That should be plumbers only, right?
Chris was actually born with plumber's crack. I'm sorry.
Is this all going in
started
the show?
choking.
Yeah, put it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not lying.
Where is my hail-sized rock for my old-fashioned that I need
Oh
now?
yeah.
That's a great idea, by the way. I've never heard of that. Of people
That is
using it for
genius.
that. I love it.
Lately, with the rain, and the oil slicks and the things we've been having in our water, I probably wouldn't recommend it.
Oh sure.
But it was my birthday.
Acid rain.
Why not?
Yeah,
So,
come
yeah.
on.
That's acid rain.
Probably got you a little extra buzzed.
It probably did.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah. Thanks for tuning in. That was Hammer Time.
NBC. No relation to NBC.